Isabella, welcome to the Big Conversations by Ordinary People podcast.
Thank you.
My name is Makeron Wamala. I am glad to have you. I know you because I produce some content for you.
Yeah.
But the way this works is you have to give me an introduction, which also the audience picks up. Then once from that introduction is how I drive this conversation, right? But this is not an interview. This is a conversation. So if you feel the need to ask me something, it's really us sharing stuff. And we go on about that.
Okay.
So yes, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
All right. I'm not sure what the introduction should be, but my name, as you said, is Isabella. My full name is Isabella Kunda Sabune. I am Ugandan. Nationality, I live in Uganda. I am from where? In Uganda.
Yeah.
Which part? The western part. So I am actually half Munyankole and half a Munyarwanda.
So you cannot be half a Munyankole and half a Munyarwanda.
Why not?
Because Munyankole is like a tribe and Munyarwanda is a whole other country, right? It's not a tribe. I don't know. Maybe you could be right.
Well, I'm technically a Tutsi, so I'm a Munyarwanda and
so you're half Ugandan and
half Rwandese,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but grown up fully here. Well, not grown up fully here, but from here. So my parents met, got married, had us when they were living here. So when they were here. So my dad. It's not like my dad's came over from Rwanda or they met there or something.
Yeah.
His family moved here during the first genocide in Rwanda. His mom, dad, and siblings moved here.
That's messed up.
Yeah. So that's why I always say I'm Ugandan. But yeah.
Do you go for Kwibuka?
I went when I lived and worked in Rwanda. I lived and worked there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
I went every year for it. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I pick interest in you because I was listening to you guys have a conversation, but this conversation is not limited to just the addiction, but I want to start with that. Right?
No worries.
Yes. Tell me your story. Tell me. Now you're here. Talk to me.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So my story is, as you mentioned, it's I'm a recovering alcoholic. That is what I say, and that is what I am. Which means that I have struggled and still am very cognizant of the fact that I struggle with alcohol addiction. So in December 2023, I checked myself into a rehabilitation center to get treatment for it. It's an inpatient treatment facility in India, funnily enough. And that was at the tail end of maybe 3 years of active addiction, which is where I was very dependent on the substance. Before
Do you still drink alcohol?
I don't know. So that's what being in recovery means, and being a recovering alcoholic is you do not drink. Like the minute you drink, you've relapsed. So the minute you have a drink, there's varying thoughts where some people say that's a slip. If you have just one, it's not a relapse, because then you go back, you get the help, you go back to meetings, or you check yourself back into rehab if that's what you need to do. But it's a relapse. So I should never, and I don't want to ever touch another drink in my life again, because once I touch one, I can't stop at one, and that is what makes me an alcoholic. So the way other people are, and that's where I also started, by the way. I didn't start off by not being able to stop until literally I'm passed out cold. I started off like anybody else, having 1 or 2 drinks here in uni, partying one night, not going out again for a month or 2. But yeah, because I have the genes for it, it's a disease and it's hereditary. Mine ended up in active addiction, where I was drinking all the time and I couldn't do without it. So if I start again now, after having reached that point, that's where I'll end up again. One is not one for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So why do you feel the need to speak about this?
So first of all, I never ever heard this conversation being had anywhere. I did not hear addiction being talked about in our culture or society. in homes. And when it was that drunkard in the family who is a problem, who is a pariah, who is an embarrassment, who it's a taboo. It was like the shame of the family if there's one person who was known. And somehow it's like this big shame where the person is just written off, right? So I want to talk about it because that's not how it should be. That is not what I think it should be. I think that, yes, it is not easy for family to actually go through this process. It's very hard. They're going through it with you, and they don't want to see you in that scenario or that state. But help is possible, but only if we stop treating it like some sin that you're literally going to get crucified for the next day in public, or like it's contagious. Like if you talk about it and say, I need help, or somebody else says this person needs help to me, let's say, you're not going to catch it. It's not contagious disease. Yeah. And even if it was really, what is the shame around it? So I'm trying to create awareness to have people get comfortable with the uncomfortable conversation of addiction. Because there's so much help out there, so much information, and it doesn't actually have to become something that's wiping out young people. Because in all honesty, not that I have the right statistics, but if you just get a vibe of where we're at right now, especially in Uganda, and I think larger parts of Africa, right? We drink a lot. It's literally a pandemic. People are in the struggle. There's a lot of people suffering, and there's a lot of people who are suffering in silence because of the shame and the stigma that has been put on this thing. So I want it to become normal. Talk about it. Like, sit and talk about it. Sit and have a conversation with your person without having to crucify them from the shame that you have also learned. Because it's learned behavior. If you have only ever seen people shaming alcoholics or addicts, when you're approaching the subject with your person, you're approaching it the same way. And you can't blame somebody for learned behavior, but we can change that. Because behavior, again, it's learned. You can change the behavior that you are.
So you believe people change?
Yeah, I believe people change or can change. I think that's the right way to say it. People can change. Some people don't want to.
Why do you think we drink a lot, though, around here?
Well,
okay. I don't think we drink the most, but actually, yes, I've looked at statistics in Africa, and I think we're like number 8.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think people drink so much? From your perspective, why were you drinking so much?
Personally, mine was to numb. A lot of it was to numb, but it started off as fun. So I think we drink a lot because we don't have a lot of other pastimes. I think our fun times are all around alcohol. We don't
actually have things to do in Kampala.
We don't have things to do.
Yeah, if it's not a bar, restaurant, lounge, there's not so much.
There's nothing happening. Yeah. So we have no other activities. I mean,
true.
Yeah, we have very few that have come. Yeah, go-karting has just come. A bowling alley came up again after very many years and then closed almost immediately. We don't have things like, I don't know, paintball or art shows or
ice skating.
Any other activity.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, we don't have other activities. All our activities are alcohol based or literally just go to a bar.
Why does it seem like all investors just are interested in that, setting up bars here?
Because it's good money. In my opinion, it's good money. I really don't know, though. I've never talked to anyone who owns one, but
I've actually been in the bar business for some time, not like owned, but been employed.
Yeah.
Marketing, almost about 50% of the bars in Kampala have streamlined their marketing. And it's not that much a big business because they also close really quickly, right? So business, they will hit the peak and then gradually just, elapse. People here are also they get bored easily by things, so they move on so quickly to some new development or something.
Yeah.
Please make the phone silent.
So I don't know. I guess I thought it was good business because I've never really actually talked to somebody in the business to see if it's good business. But maybe it's also a thing of that's what they think people want. So if every bar that you go to basically from Wednesday to Sunday is full all the time, you think that's a good business to start, so you start it. And as you rightfully said, we're bored. We get bored very easily. So you're thinking, you know what, that bar's been around for a year. If I start one right next door, people are going to come because they're getting bored of that one. Maybe that's what it is. And And we don't have other activities, so we've never actually tried. I don't see people setting up other things to see if people will come. Maybe that's why the bowling alley closed again, the new one, because they set it up thinking perhaps this will be something people come to as a different activity.
Yeah.
And then they didn't, because they want to go to a bar.
So anyway, back to you. When you look back, what moment do you look at and feel like this defined my turning point?
Towards recovery,
Yeah,
or
towards recovery from this is like a moment where you're like, I should stop.
well,
Because stopping is not easy, right?
so
Stopping habits is not easy.
yeah. So first of all, it wasn't even for an addict. It's very hard to think you should stop. It's more you think you can't possibly go on like that. You don't actually really want to stop. You're hoping you will, because by the time I went into rehab, I didn't actually think I would stop. My first day there, I was asked the question on intake, what do you think the hardest thing is going to be while you're in here? And I genuinely answered, not drinking. Because for the last, I think maybe half a year at that point, or about 4 months, I had not gone even an hour without a drink if I was awake. So I thought that would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The guy laughed at me so hard. He said that would be the easiest, and he was right. So my turning point was, and this is heavy, so trigger warning. I know I say that sarcastically, but seriously, was when my third suicide attempt failed. So I woke up the next day and called the director of the rehab, who I'd been talking to at that point for about 3 years, and told him that I was coming in a week. And then I made all the arrangements, and I got on a flight and I left. Yeah.
I mean, okay, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So
How do you? So it's only until recent that I have personally realized that maybe if I hate my phone, right?
yeah.
This is one thing I hate the most, by the way. I hate it. I look at my phone as a devil of some sort.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of my attention away from things I'm supposed to actually do. So I did a thing with the guys who sold it to me. Mm-hmm. So they can just randomly switch it off if I have not given them their money. By the time they switch it off, I don't panic to put it back on unless it's really urgent. But then I enjoy those moments the most, because the only thing I do from it is to just receive phone calls and not do anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how I should think. But I need my business is media, everything, but I need it, right?
Yeah.
But to realize that I have issues with my phone, like I have this whole social media addiction, that TikTok and whatnot, the screen time addiction, took me so much time. So for you, how do you individually look into it and you're like, I actually need to check into rehab? Because for most people's cases, it's support from family or maybe workplaces or friends, where it's almost like a push to the ones I know, to my friends. It's almost like a push of they have to drag you to rehab. But in your situation, you do realize and get to this point by yourself.
Yeah.
And then book a flight to India.
Yeah.
Also, that's a bit privileged by the fact that you could, just get a flight and get to India. That means you'd still have a fallback plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I am very lucky. In a lot of ways, I'm very blessed, because that flight to India that I booked without money to actually get on the flight. I booked it through my brother-in-law, who owns a travel agency, and I just told him that I needed to go and why I needed to go, and he actually then just gave me the flight. So very lucky. And then the rehab, I paid some of it, and then my family helped me out. So again, very lucky. And the visa for India actually doesn't take that long. Yeah, and I'd already processed it before. Anyway, so, but coming to the realization yourself to go to rehab usually happens at that point where you realize you just can't go on the way you are. For most people, you've tried a lot of things. You've even tried outpatient help. Some people will go to some of these rehabilitation centers that we even have here and try to do an outpatient program, which is going to meeting psychologists, psychotherapists, everything, detoxing. They'll have tried time and time again. By the time somebody goes into an inpatient rehabilitation center where you're literally checking yourself in to a place where that's all you're going to be doing and focusing on, you have already tried a lot of things. Usually your closest people have tried a lot of things and they've all failed. And you're now at rock bottom. In fact, you're below rock bottom, because I always tell people I hit rock bottom and then I dug a little deeper. And that's the point I reached, and I thought,
this is it.
This is it. Like, I either get help
or go,
or I die. And I think for a lot of people who self-check in, that's the point they've reached. It's a thing of I either get help or I die. Because some people by that point have lost everything. You know, they've lost their jobs, their families, their cars, their houses, even the clothes off their backs. And they're like, okay, genuinely need help or I'm going to die. So I think that's the point. When you've hit rock bottom, dug a little deeper, and there's nowhere left to go. There's nothing left for you to try, nowhere left to go.
All right. So before recovery, how did this addiction shape your life, relationships, aspirations?
Well, aspirations went out the window. I never really had any, which is weird. I think I just wanted to
live. Yeah,
I just wanted to do what I was supposed to do. I'd always been that person who wanted to do what I was supposed to do. What was expected of me. I was good at my job. I was good at family. I was good at a lot of things because I was very good at masking as well. So I was very good at adopting myself to the scenario and the person. Who you want me to be is who I present to you. When I move on to the next person, I change and I become that person. So I was very good at that. I didn't have very many aspirations. But then it shaped. So for my relationships, one, I found myself in, I think, struggling a lot in the relationships. I think they struggled with me too. I struggled with them. Quite a few of my relationships, I realized during recovery, were actually enabling relationships, which is where you are in groups or in even intimate relationships that actually help, that encourage your behavior or that support it. So you basically are all drinking at the same level and it seems okay. So my romantic relationships were like that. Some of my friendships were like that. So I found myself struggling when I realized that I wasn't like them. I was starting to struggle with this thing, with the alcohol, and it was actually making my depression worse. So that started struggling. My family, at one point my mom was literally saying to me that she thinks that if I don't change my behavior, she's going to die from heartbreak. From the stress and heartbreak. Me and my sister, who are best friends and very close, stopped talking for about 3 months. We just communicated on normal things, on mom's coming or call your mother or whatever, normal things the kids are asking about you. She has children. So all my relationships suffered. But my work suffered a little, but not that much, to be honest. I was actually quite high functioning there. But what suffered most for me was my physical and mental health during my active addiction.
Physical health?
Yeah, physical health. So I've never really been a very sickly person. I get colds here and there. I think that's normal. People get the flu. But I started going to the hospital almost every week for unknown things. Basically, the alcohol was just eating me up from inside. So I would start, fainting, collapsing, and vomiting, and all of these things, having migraines, like being unable to breathe, and then I have to go to the hospital and I'm put on a drip and I'm put on medicine, and they run all the tests and there's nothing wrong with me. And that became now a habit. I was basically on IVs every week just to try to fix a problem they didn't even know, because I wasn't being honest about what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And then my mental health was just in the gutter, because first of all, half of my drinking or the escalation of it all was to numb all the other things I was running away from that were going on in here, what I was feeling and what I was thinking. That it doesn't resolve it. You numb, then it wears off and it comes back worse, because now you've added guilt, you've added shame, you've added embarrassment, you've added so many negative things that, you're just making the problem worse, but that is what it is.
Wow. So for the mindset, what tools helped you through? Or what did you do? Were you listening to so much? What were you consuming to, put you in like a positive wave? Because also the realization was self-induced, which is brilliant. It shows that you actually have a brilliant mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad you're sending me so many notifications.
Sorry.
But yes.
Yeah. So I've always been very religious. When I say that, I mean I'm a Christian, and I was very, very involved in the church. And I was like, I got born again saved when I was like 12 years old, by choice. Led scripture union, all these things. So it's so funny, but it's not so funny. But
how come that didn't help you?
So because of the shit, because of the whole. First of all, threw it out the window almost when I went to uni because I just wanted to fit in.
Okay, backtrack before you actually come back to this question.
Yeah.
When does your active addiction start in your life? Right.
My active addiction, in my opinion, started during COVID lockdown.
So it's not so far away.
No.
So that's like 2020.
Yeah, 2020 onwards, because that's when
we actually started this podcast, I think.
Yeah, so that's when I went from drinking after work. Yeah, because I was still a problematic drinker. I was still a hard drinker. I still drank pretty much every day. There were only a very few off days. But I went from drinking after work to being.
Why were you drinking? Was it because it's fun?
Yeah.
Because of your company?
No, it was fun, and it was an excuse, to be honest. I really don't think there was any other reason anybody, or at least let me speak for myself, any reason I was drinking apart from I wanted to. But I gave reasons. I'll miss traffic. I get to hang out with my friends and we have a good time. It will relieve the stress of the day that I have. It will take all that away. Like, I'll be happy. But those were just excuses to justify the fact that I just wanted to drink. Because I could have even gone and hung out with my friends, de-stressed and decompressed, because a conversation with a good friend is always good for that, without touching the booze. And I had friends who would come for those hangouts and didn't touch the booze. So it was just an excuse and a justification. I just wanted to. But yeah, so I was drinking every day after work. Most days. Let me say most days, because it wasn't all the time every day. And then COVID hit, we went into lockdown, and then it seemed like what we were doing was just drinking all day and it was okay. So I was locked down in like a complex of other houses with other people, and we started this thing where we'd throw parties, and the parties went from starting in the evening to late afternoon to mid-afternoon to morning. And then it just became normalized that we were actually drinking the entire day, and it was okay because everyone was doing it. Now for
you didn't have work. Look,
yeah, I was working, but work was, anyone who's now, like, by now we've all realized if you're working from home online, you pretty much need like 3 hours to get it out of the way, and then you're done. So I would be done because I'm pretty efficient. I've always been very good at my jobs, whichever one I've had. And I've always been very efficient. So I'll be done by like 10:30, 11, I'm done. I'm also an early riser, so I'd be up by 6 and I'd be done by 10 or 11 latest. And then we'd start the party. And see, some people have moved on from that after lockdown and went back to regular life. Now, because I have the addictive gene or genetics or whatever you want to call it, I am predisposed to addiction. For me, that didn't stop. That just became now normal. But I slowed down. I went back to drinking every day after work, and then on weekends. But as other issues happened in my life, especially very big traumatic ones, I ended up needing to numb that with the booze. Because I thought, you know what, when I drink, I don't...
Your only addiction was booze.
My only addiction was booze. By the end, I was combining it with benzodiazepams, which are things like Valium, so sleeping pills, because...
Your guy will be a very good friend.
because I needed a bigger high, but that was towards the end. I was never really addicted to pills and drugs. Anyway, so it was just, and I didn't do the narcotics that people know, just that. Anyway, so I started using alcohol, but a lot more around about 2022 mid-year. So that's when now it went from after
Were you
work
drinking top-notch alcohol, or were you just anything, the local small spirits?
So
coffee,
the funny thing is,
what?
I've literally always been a Gilby's girl, or I always was. As in, that was literally my first drink. I don't know why other people, I don't know how I didn't start with other people on things like wine and Smirnoff Ice and beer. I started on Gilby's. So that's what I stuck to. Supplemented it with Smirnoff vodka, but yeah, pretty much those two things. I didn't go on Waraji, sorry. Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. I was actually looking for Waraji.
Yeah. Especially when they came out with that lemon ginger one, that was just so bad for
But
me.
that's so recent.
Yeah, so that was
the last
2023.
Yeah,
2023. So anyway, yeah.
And you can just sip it down without noticing any impact. It's almost
terrible.
like an honor juice.
It was so bad. I'm like, listen, I get that they did a good thing as the brewery, but it's so bad for a person who has a problem with booze, because it's too easy to drink.
It's too easy to drink.
It's way too easy to drink, and yet it still has the same crazy effects that what anywhere
like an
does.
edible with the high also. It just pops up slowly.
Yeah,
You
so
can just keep
terrible.
drinking. Because I remember in
So
Uganda, I
terrible.
drank that whole bottle alone. And take it from me, I do not like alcohol. I have detested alcohol my whole life, but I drank it. And I realized I had finished the whole big bottle of UG.
Yeah.
Because I was falling down, then I was starting to vomit. I become a burden to my friends.
Yeah.
So I know how
Yeah,
easy it is
so
to,
it's too easy and it's so terrible. But I'm not trying to come here and
Market
decampaign, because
that'll be fine. Then,
responsible drinking adults, whatever.
That's it.
But anyway, so you asked me before what I held on to, and I held on to God, but in a very distant way. So I hated myself so much for what I was doing. I hated who I'd become, and I felt so ashamed in front of God. So I was only holding on to him in that I knew he was still there, but I wasn't fully in it. But then the fact that I still prayed, and then I still listened to gospel music, I think that was the only positive thing happening. But by the time I went to rehab, by the way, when I went to rehab, it wasn't so much that I actually wanted to recover. What I wanted to do was get sober, was stop drinking, so that my mother didn't have to explain that she's burying me because I died from alcohol overdose or something related. But I still had the intention, because at that point I'd really given up on life and I felt like I didn't want to live anymore. So I just thought, if I can get sober and then try again, then I'll be okay. Like, I'll get what I want. I praise God again. Really, honestly, I'm back to fully understanding that God was always with me. Pretty much, I know that everyone says I'm his favorite child, but like, I feel like I am, because I have survived so much. So many almost dead.
So there's a thing I say
yeah.
about suicide.
Yeah, so I recovered. Thank God.
Let me just do that. Go on.
Yeah, that part where I thought that's what I wanted, that went away after 2 weeks in rehab, and I started wanting to live so hard. So I put in a lot of effort into doing the work, which is not easy, and I would never come anywhere or in front of anyone and say that once you make that decision, it's going to be an easy journey. It's extremely difficult, because unpacking the reasons why you have ended up there, the underlying factors, that is painful and it sucks, but it's worth it.
So the stigma, how was that affecting you? Did your close people know that you are an alcoholic then? What next?
I have to assume,
you
yeah.
masked it out?
I masked it a lot. So I know now from having done the podcast that a lot of people, there's two streams of feedback that I'm getting. There's some where people are just in so much shock and they can't believe this was going on. They never saw it. And then there's those who are saying, yeah, we could see that you were struggling with something, but we didn't know what. Like, we just thought you were struggling as in maybe depression or trauma or grief or whatever, but didn't know that it was you were actually suffering from addiction as well. So yeah, there's been those two. I know that there are people who noticed, and then I know that there's a lot of people who never noticed. But that was also, I was masking it a lot. So the people that noticed are very intuitive, to be honest, because I was really masking it, and therefore the majority didn't notice. But there'll always be people who notice because they're intuitive, or you're around them enough and they knew you before that, where they're seeing the difference and they're seeing that something's wrong, and or they're actually seeing you actively using, so they know that that's what the problem is.
So right now, how are you going about your life, without the stress and the hurdles of it all, without relapsing?
So for me, the one main thing that I've done is I've stayed in therapy, because I realized that my underlying factors, the stuff I was dealing with and the stuff that I will continue to deal with, because life is life, right? I need that help. So I am so for therapy. I have a session every 2 weeks for an hour just to talk through life and things. But also we were taught a lot of coping mechanisms. So I know what my self-care needs to look like when I'm not feeling my best. And I have to be very, very, very conscious of that. And I have to be very selfish about how I do it as well. So for me, my self-care, the primary self-care that I need is I need to actually isolate, kind of. Isolate is a bad word in addiction because it's one of the signs, yeah? But I mean, I need to be alone. Actually, let me not say isolate. I need alone time. So I need the noise to turn down because I get very overwhelmed with things. There's a lot of busyness. I get overwhelmed and I take on a lot as well. I'm one of those people who I want to step in and do this and do this and do this, and if I can help or find a solution, like I'm that person.
So how are you handling kids that in nursery school?
Well, no, kids are great, but also I don't actually like full-time. I don't teach them. I run operations, so I only step in every once in a while. But so my self-care predominantly looks like alone time. It predominantly looks like switching off everyone, shutting down everything, yeah? That means not talking to my mom. That means not talking to my sister, my friends, my boyfriend, everyone. Like, I'm literally like, I need to just be quiet for about a weekend. Don't call me, don't text me, don't talk to me. Because I just need to not talk, and I need to not be talked to.
True, okay.
So, yeah, so I've gotten very intentional about me. And people say, don't say that you've gotten selfish. It's a bad word. That's a lie. I think we've made selfish a bad word because we've made it mean. But selfish just means putting yourself first, which is what I do. But I employ all the other coping mechanisms, including understanding that it's not about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling. A very, very famous psychologist called Dr. Gabor Maté said that. And
first repeat the quote.
So it's not about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling.
So feeling the right things.
No, feeling everything and being okay with it. So if you're angry, feel angry. Acknowledge that you are. Try to figure out why, and then let that emotion go through you. If you're sad, same thing. If you're happy, same thing. If you're feeling nothing, like, there's those moments where it's just blah. Like people are like, how are you? And you're like, I'm not happy, I'm not sad. I feel somewhere there in the middle. That's also okay. So it's about becoming okay with how you're feeling, getting better at feeling. Don't try to feel better all the time. That whole pursuit of happiness is actually the beginning of sadness. Because you can't be happy all the time. Happiness is just one of the many emotions that we have as complex human beings. So it's just giving yourself that grace. And I give that to myself now. I don't chase perfectionism, even if I struggle with it still because I'm a perfectionist at heart. But I am now okay with, if I enter like a depressive...
This is why you have to have a makeup person do your makeup.
Exactly. Also, I'm very bad at it. So, it's just also self-preservation because I don't want to show up and look like a clown. So it's about like, if I enter a depressive episode, I'm okay with that. I have to be okay with that. Just because I've done all this growth and healing does not mean that I am now going to never be sad again, or I'm never going to enter a depressive episode. I have depression. I have chronic depression. I suffer from that, and I always will, and I always have. But it's okay. I acknowledge it, and I'm fine with it.
So depression is actually one of the things that triggers suicide.
Yes.
You're working on that as well?
I work through it all the time. So for me, before I would feel so bad because, again, depression was something until recently as well. And this is why awareness is key. Until recently, where it was also a stigma. Having depression was like, everyone gets sad, snap out of it. But depression isn't sadness. It's so much more than that. That's like the surface. Yes, everyone gets sad. Not everyone enters depression. Not everyone. I always tell people, you can be sad and you can still see that this wall has shiny gold color in it. When you're in depression, it's like everything is just gray, and this like horrible gray. And you can't seem to pull yourself out of it. It's not just that you're sad. It's that every single fiber of your being is in some sort of overwhelming pain that you can't describe. And sadness is part of it, but it's not the only thing. So again, though, we've come to understand that depression is real from awareness and from people going through it, and even some ending up, unfortunately, dying by suicide. So it's acknowledging that I have that, and not beating myself up about when it happens, because it does every once in a while. And just allowing myself the grace to go through that without then also, okay, I need to be better. Like, I've put in so much work. I've been in therapy. I've done the work. I know everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm studying psychology, so I even know the theory part of it. And
it's always better as a student.
Yeah, so I think we end up there because we feel that we need to help because we get it. Yeah.
But don't you feel like, since by virtue of the fact that everyone gets depressed, right? And
everyone gets sad, everyone gets depressed. Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets depressed. Mm-mm. It's not that everyone gets the luxury to diagnose it.
That I agree with. But not everyone gets depressed. I think everyone gets sad, and maybe very sad. But we can't also say everyone gets depressed. But I know that a lot of people have depressed.
Depression is when you actually go to, when you're diagnosed. Right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. But also, there's a part that can be self-diagnosis. So, you know how you can be sad, even like sadness over loss of a person. You can be sad, and you can be sad for quite a while. Maybe there's levels to the sadness, yeah? But you're sad for a while, and then at some point you kind of either feel like you have to move on with life, or you start becoming functional again after that sadness or through that sadness. And then it's not the thing that's at the forefront of how you're living. Depression isn't that. Depression is, you can't seem to get out of that. You can't seem to figure out that you still have a life to live or things to do or responsibilities, to the level of getting out of bed to shower is no longer a thing you want to do.
So how does How does functional addiction work in this case?
So there's no such thing as functional addiction, in my opinion. In my opinion, by the time you're an addict. Okay, well, there's the cycle of addiction, yes, and you get to the bottom.
So let me explain to you a scenario before you finish that.
Okay.
Let me give you hypothetically. I know someone who smokes marijuana, right? They can smoke it every day, but they can also not smoke it. And they've been doing this since we're in like senior 2, right? Mm-hmm. So it is almost like they're functional addicts, but they can actually go away from it if it calls for that. If they're into a project and they cannot not smoke, they can be very cower. So how do we term that?
That's just a problematic user. If they can go away from it, even for a day, they're not addicts. But you're even saying for long periods of time, like
doesn't agree.
Like
you can actually come in.
Like they see that there's a need to go away from it, from the substance, from marijuana, to do something.
But the same with alcohol, right? So
alcohol is that's why there's problematic drinkers, because you can drink all that time.
Problematic hard drinkers and functional drinkers.
Problematic and hard drinker are the same thing. We just interchange the words. And then functioning addict is a thing that genuinely I think we say in especially Africa, but it's not a thing. Like, you are a functioning problematic user. So you are functioning and you drink a lot, or you are functioning and you smoke weed a lot. But when life or responsibility or health or friends or whatever, when something calls for you to leave that thing, you leave it.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, you leave it and you go and you do that thing, or you listen to your doctor or whatever. The addict is the one who they're telling you, let's say for cigarettes, even, let me not even say alcohol. Let's say you're addicted to cigarette smoking, and they're telling you are going to die, like your lungs are giving up, as in you are one step away from being in hospice care just for you to die. And you go to that hospice care, your lungs are like 0.25% in only one left, and you're smoking cigarettes. As in, nothing can make you stop. Nothing.
That is when you're addicted.
That's an addict, and that's not functioning. Because surely if you were functioning, you'd understand the need to leave that substance.
So I feel like almost most partygoers in Uganda are functional addicts of alcohol.
Functional drinkers. They're problematic drinkers. They're hard drinkers. But again, it's for them to determine maybe what we are seeing or what you see when you go to the bar or the club of that guy who's there every night drinking his bottles. You think that's the only time he does it. If that person is then, he's either in the cycle where he's looking forward to so badly those bottles, and then he drinks them like someone's chasing him every day. He's in the addiction cycle, but can get off at any time. But also, if they've transgressed from the bar and they're drinking it.
So do you think some people are just problematic drinkers, and then others become addicts because it's chronic?
Yeah. So there are those who are problematic drinkers, 100%. Not everyone is an addict. Not everyone is an alcoholic. Like, you're just a hard drinker. You're a problematic drinker. But the ones who are predisposed to it will usually end up addicts if you've entered problematic drinking. So if you've entered that level of you're pushing a bottle every day and you are predisposed, as in it's in your genetics you have addiction in your bloodline somewhere.
Yeah.
Then you're well on the way to becoming a full-blown active addict. Yeah. Unfortunately.
So what lessons from your recovery and addiction do you apply now in your normal day living? And business, you are doing work, entrepreneurship and whatnot, all this.
Yeah. I think mostly I've learned boundaries very hard. I never used to have boundaries. I now have boundaries. Boundaries is where things that don't make me feel good, like don't align with me, energy, people, activities. If I feel that I am somehow diminishing me and how I feel, what I'm getting out of the thing, what I will get out of it by doing the thing, by doing whatever it is, it's a boundary. Some things, other boundaries I have there are too many, but boundaries are things where you're supposed to understand that it isn't, your nervous system doesn't feel good doing it. Yeah. But then also I've learned how to slow down. I used to feel like I had to do it all. Like I was just always running at 100% because I felt like I had to get everything done all the time, even when it wasn't necessary. I'm just like, I need to do more. And then I'm burnt out all the time. So I've learned how to slow down because that's not good for me to be burnt out all the time. I've learned how to give people grace. I was never not a kind person. I have to be honest about that. I've also become very good at affirming myself, but also I've become more cognizant even in the being kind of giving grace to people. So I feel like I now pick up on when someone's going through something much quicker than I used to. And even if I'm not going to come and sit and say, are you going through something? I try to find a way to give that person grace. So that I apply in my workplace because I'm technically the boss. So I have to manage my human resource, right? And these are people who, as you rightfully said, kids can get overwhelming, like you said. They're nice, but yeah. So they're dealing with these young children all the time, and it can be hard. So I've learned how to pick up on that and give people grace. And as I said earlier, I've learned how to pick up on when I need to apply my own self-care and do it.
Okay. Now you have fully come out on this awareness thing. You have this podcast going on, Addiction Unfiltered with Laura, and also, so a lot more people are going to find out that, you're recovering, right? But that also comes with stigma.
Yeah.
They treat you with stigma. So how do you plan to handle that?
So
how are you handling it anyway? Because
so for right now, I guess I've been lucky. No one has been blatantly abusive or negative towards what we're doing yet. Maybe we're just not that popular yet. But I find that having gone through all that I did, like I call it the darkness. Having gone through all that darkness that I went through, there's very little somebody can say or do to pull me down, because I've really been there.
You've fought your battles.
Yeah, I've really fought my battles and come out the other side. And I need people to be, I need those who need that help to hear it more than I need those who are battling their own stigma and ignorance. But then also, I genuinely feel that I've become better at handling that as well, at handling negativity, handling criticism. So it's just about reacting differently. I react differently. I don't react from, I feel attacked. I try to take a step back and try to understand why that person might be reacting that way. Because usually somebody who attacks you about something you're doing or you've said, it's a reaction to something that is triggering them about themselves.
They're projecting sort of.
They're projecting. So I try to give it that approach. I'm not going to say that hurtful things won't hurt, but I'm better at coping with them, and I continuously just try to approach everything with kindness and grace, because if something has triggered you, you're going through something. So I can only wish you good. I can only wish you good. Yeah. I try to approach everything with grace and kindness now, because you just don't know what anyone's going through.
How was the before?
I was still kind and I think graceful, but
not as much as now.
Well, not as intentionally. I think I was unintentionally that way. Yeah. I think I used to be very reactionary when something triggered me. Yeah. I was very reactionary.
How do you want your story to inspire others?
Honestly, I want the person who's still struggling and who feels like there's no hope and who feels that...
So hope is very misleading.
So, okay, hope in change, hope in coming out of the dark place, hope in getting help, hope in life somehow becoming better. That's what I mean by hope. I want that person to look at me or my life story and understand that I really went through the deepest, darkest possible things I'm sure most people can go through or think of, and I came out the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm here and I'm thriving, So it's possible to get help and recover and feel better and actually like life again.
So away from the addiction, do you kind of miss the alcohol high?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm really sure.
So what do you do when you're bored?
I like to read, I like to cook, I like to draw. I'm very actively involved in my sister's children, my niece and nephew, so I spend a lot of time with them. I am dating, so I spend a lot of time with him. But also, I've learned how to be alone and sit in aloneness and stillness and do nothing and be okay with that.
Stop.
Yeah. I don't miss that there was... With the memories that I have of the alcohol, thank God, and I hope this continues, are all bad for me. I don't remember the good anymore because the bad overshadowed it for too long. But
it also feels like you're not into it for too long. So I don't think it's like a time.
Yeah.
How much you spend.
Yeah. I think it's not. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not how long you are actively in addiction. It's really
how you are affected.
Were all those things that make you an addict there, and was your life unmanageable? Step one of AA is you realize and admit that that you're powerless and your life has become unmanageable.
I actually want to start something like some sort of AA. Yesterday I was telling my friends in a group, I was telling them we should meet weekly and sit. Everyone talks about stuff, right? Yeah. Yeah, like a group session. Yeah, but I failed at that with therapy. So I've been to therapy twice. The 2 times it was because of relationships, right? Yeah. So my then ex-girlfriend dragged me to a therapist to talk about why we are failing. And the whole time I was seated in front of this lady, it felt like a waste of time. Yeah. I was like, you're not perfect. Why the fuck would you be listening to my issues?
Yeah, that's true. Therapists are not perfect.
Yeah, like I don't want to give someone that much power over me, and you know, for them to feel like there's some sort of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, firstly, I think if there's I like therapy a lot, and I talk about it a lot. But yeah, I tried with many therapists, and it also didn't work. So I'm very lucky to have landed on one who I get along with. I always felt that, and the ones who didn't work, it was because I felt they were trying to. They were trying to give me these big solutions and like do this because I know better mantras for my life. But that's not how. I don't think that's how therapy is and should be. I think successful therapy is working through the issue with you and coming to a solution by yourself, the person who's in therapy. So it's like, listen, let's talk about this and see how best we can approach this problem, but not by me telling you how to resolve it. Because what works for me won't work for you, and therefore it's wrong if you tell me how to do stuff. I can help you here and there, but you know, so it's also a hit and miss with therapists. That is also just a given. You get lucky, maybe you don't. But I recommend trying always, to keep on trying, because I like therapy.
How would you explain therapy has helped you? What's the difference between talking to a therapist and talking to me if I were your friend then?
So in therapy, first of all, even with my bestest friends or closest family, there are things I just don't talk about. I feel I can't in some way. With my therapist, there's nothing.
Because you feel judged.
Yeah, like it's the fear of judgment. Even when I'm trying not to feel the fear of judgment, it's just a preconditioning that every human being has. So something will happen, or I think something, and I think this is not big enough to share. They're going to judge me for that. Like I'm being too dramatic, which is sad. But anyway, so fear of being judged is one of the things. For my therapist, I have no fear of being judged. Even the stupidest things I share with her, the big things, the small things, the nothings. It's just, I talk about everything. It's literally like I just offload of everything, and I don't have any structure to how I'm doing it. I just talk. And then of course, because she's been doing it for a long time, and she has gone through quite a few things as well of her own, and most especially she's a recovering addict as well. She's 15 years sober though. She understands. We resonate a lot on things. So it feels like it makes my soul lighter after I talk to her. And it's because I can talk about anything, and I never ever have the fear of being judged for it. Yeah.
How would you explain God's involvement in all this? Apart from the myth of, your mind trying to convince you that the gospel music was feel good.
Yeah.
So you probably were reading the Bible, but oftentimes you can get the same content from the Bible in a self-care book, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, how does God help your sobriety? Is it just hope for you?
I mean, it's understanding. So again, that's another AA ethos, although they're not specifically meaning God. It's God, how you understand him. But
that's your next question. How do you understand God?
Yeah, so it's understanding that there's a higher power, and surrendering to your higher power. And for me, that is God, God in the Christian sense, because that is my background and belief. But for me, how that has shown up is that, first of all, the way my life has gone, if God wasn't involved, in my opinion, for myself, I do not think I'd be here, or I don't think I'd be here the way that I am. So in reflection, I see God in every aspect of my life, even at the points where I thought he wasn't there anymore. He was there. And obviously he has a bigger purpose for my life, which I'm now fully stepping into doing stuff like this. And I feel very grounded. I feel like I am in my purpose. But I have seen his goodness, like in my life. When I reflect, I see it, and I can't deny it. And for me, he is my higher power. Therefore, I'm fully in that belief that is what he has been, that is what he is, and that is how blessed I am. So sometimes I joke, I say my guardian angel is a very busy woman, because she has had to like pick me up and run off with me sometimes. But I mean that in the sense that, yeah, my guardian angel God, like, has been with me. Like, I just see his goodness in my life. Or I've seen him in my life.
Legacy. Do you have questions for me? Because I feel like I've exploited everything I have to ask you.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't know. What do you hope that your audience gets takes from this? Like, what were you hoping to get? Like, why did you feel the necessity to invite me here and talk about this stuff?
I found you interesting. So that's the aim of the podcast.
Yeah.
I get people I find interesting, probably TV would not pick up on. It's just really big conversations by ordinary people. So you're as ordinary as it gets.
That is true.
Yeah. So really, I just found you interesting and thought we would have a conversation. Then I wanted to listen to your story through these earphones.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
that, and oftentimes most people I interact with who are struggling with addiction relapse.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to see that.
Yeah, that's a big one, by the way. That's why you say you're a recovering alcoholic. Yeah, you're not recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
or recovering
there's-
addict.
Are you
Yeah.
scared of relapsing?
No, I'm not scared of that, but I'm very conscious that it's a possibility. I don't fear it. Like, I don't feel the fear of it the way I did in like the first 6 months of recovery. I was afraid I was going to relapse. I couldn't even drive by a bar without feeling that if I looked at the entrance, I would go in and have a drink. But I don't feel that anymore. So I don't know if, and I'm not saying that it's not a possibility again.
So, but is there like some sort of ritual you have adopted to when you get these triggers? Is there like a routine? Do you, when you see a beer ad, do you sip water instead? And
No. I don't know. Like, the appeal of alcohol isn't there for me. So I see ads, and the other day I was sitting at a bar, actually. And not the other day, like sometime last week, and I was looking at all these bottles, and I was telling my therapist this in session. I was looking at all these bottles, and the sensation I had wasn't that, oh man, I remember that drink. I literally had a burning sensation in my throat. Like, I felt suddenly like my throat was on fire. Like, I remember the actual horrible effect of alcohol. So I'm so conscious of relapse, and I go to meetings and I hear people who had 5 years and then relapsed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a scary concept, right? But I'm not afraid of the concept. It's there, and you go into recovery knowing it's a possibility, because the statistics are 70% of the people who enter recovery relapse. They're not great. So you have to be very, very, very humble in your journey, because it's a possibility any day and every day. My triggers now, though, don't seem to make me want to pick up a drink. I don't get triggered or overwhelmed or anything, and I think, I just wish I could have a gin and tonic. No. Usually, now what I feel is, I want to disappear, which is also bad because that's running away. But I don't know, I apply the things that I'm supposed to do, and one of them is also journaling, writing your thoughts down so they're out of your head, which I never used to do before. But I don't automatically feel I want a drink. So for now, I'm thankful. I'm very thankful to God for that. I'm very thankful to all my groups and my therapists.
All the times
for
I tried journaling to mask something.
Yeah.
I go back to those notes and then I feel ashamed, so I stopped journaling. I'm just the self-shame I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, was I really going through this? Then I'm like, okay, nah, I can't be writing this stuff down.
Yeah.
So I just deal with it in my mind. Why I feel like that mind is such a dirty, big, weird place. There's such a big battle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's kind of why you should remove it from your head. I mean, if you felt bad reading your stuff back then, just don't read it.
I felt from November to now, like I don't deserve to leave. So I tried to talk to my elder brother about it, and it's like, okay, now you need to stop staying at home. But for the longest time, I was staying in my house alone, over and over again, and and I just feel tired. But then none of my people can actually pick up on it, because then I am like, The one with the energy. You get that? But then I also really feel tired.
So it kind of sounds like you're in a depressive episode to me. I have no license to say that with any authority, but I would recommend talking to somebody who is. I know you said you don't like therapists, but
yeah, I would rather talk to a large language model.
But
and talk to my DeepSeek or ChatGPT or whatever and see what it's telling me.
I mean, try again and see. There's so many now.
Non-therapy, but there's that, right? But I think I'll get through, right? But then I'm feeling tired. And I know the reasons to why. Some of them are actually out of my control, but then I'm like, okay, I have obligations, I have things to do, I have a studio to run and businesses, I have a child to raise. So there's that, but that doesn't stop the feeling. I just embrace it.
Yeah.
So just like, I think Monday or yesterday, I had to stay home even when I had things to do here. I actually have some work I have to submit in, but I just couldn't get out.
Yeah.
I just could not.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it sounds like you're in a depressive episode and actively thinking about So
yeah, but I've had that for a very long time, right?
Yeah. As you identified, one goes with the other most times. Which is why I'm saying I would recommend getting some help for it. Beyond talking to ChatGPT and your family, which is good though. Not ChatGPT, actual human beings. It's good.
What's the difference? Well, ChatGPT has so much data it can work with.
But it can't emote. It can't emote. Usually,
I just need to understand the situation.
There's understanding, but then there's connection. There's seeing somebody empathize with you and responding from basically a human touch. That is what's different.
Yeah, I feel like some sort of pity, sadness, and sometimes I'm just not looking for that.
Yeah, so and that's the thing about also people not understanding stuff like this. They don't know how to support. They don't know how to be just a safe space. And it's hard. Again, they don't know any better. So grace. But there's very many people out there who you can talk to and are safe spaces and understand. And sometimes the support is just, and now I'm saying this to other people who are listening. Like
but
sometimes
also,
the support is just
like
being around the person.
Once my money aligns, I will not feel like this. So that's the other thing.
Well, yeah, there's always a causation to why someone's feeling this way, right? But until that changes, it would be good not to stay in the situation, in that nastiness and negativity.
I use it to measure how strong my mind is to like keep fighting this. Because then it's not like brand new. I probably felt like this in high school, but I was not very exposed to understand my feelings. So I don't believe in hope. I find hope very misleading, so I don't cling on to hope or anything. I like to believe in God because that's what we have to do as humans. But yeah.
I'm like, it's interesting that you believe in God and not hope when God is hope.
Yeah, so hope as a concept itself, to me it's very misleading because there's a lot of false hope,
Yeah.
Whenever you cling onto it, there's a bigger chance that you're going to be disappointed. So for most of the time, I'm not very hopeful of things.
But
should I tell you something? I was going to cancel this conversation.
Okay.
Today morning, but I had to meet him. So I had to come here. But I was going to send you a text and tell you I'm not actually feeling well because I was actually not feeling well and I have the right. But then I was like, she actually talked about a makeup artist and all this. So she has put all these people in like in shade. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm glad you didn't, but also, I would have understood.
I slept at 2. I was talking to a friend of mine in the States about some sort of female. Slept like at 2, talking about some sort of the same thing. So they were telling me they were going through the same thing last year before they went to the UK. And then they were giving the same advice, go away, leave the home, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not the thing. The thing is, there's something not aligning with what I want, where I want to be, and it's okay for me to just be like this right now, right?
Yeah, that's also true. You don't have to get out. You don't have to snap out of it. That's a lot of that's advice a lot of people give. Snap out of it, and it's not necessary. You're allowed to feel how you're feeling and be okay with it. But of course, like if it's prolonged, is where I say get help, because then you can't get out of it. Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't believe in that sort of help.
I know. It's good that you talk to friends and you have friends you can talk to, I guess.
I tell them just because that's the conversation I am having.
Yeah.
I do not tell them because I want them to feel some type of way. In most cases, there's a bigger chance that I'm better than that friend from my own perspective, right? In most of the things. So I'm just talking to them just because it's something I have to say. And it's more like it's that stage that is happening. And then I'll get through it. So there's that small bit of hope that, okay, but then, yeah, I look at it as life. Like, this is how life works, you know. There's more problems. I also operate in the idea that things can fail all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've seen that from my dad, you know. Seen that from businesses here, so. I know for a fact that you can do everything right, like Nokia, and still fail. So that possibility of failing keeps hanging in my mind all the time.
Yeah. So the fact that you've gone through it before and come out of it, that's good. It's not a nice place to be, but it's okay to be there. But if it goes on for much longer than usual, is when I'm saying it don't have to be therapy. It can be, I don't know. You believe in God, so it can be church, or are you Christian?
I definitely can be church. I'm Christian.
Yeah. So it can
Catholic.
be. Yes.
I want to be Muslim though.
No one's stopping you, but it can be that you go to somebody there and talk to them. They have so many of these people that you can talk to as well, and not from a therapy counseling perspective, but just literally like somebody in the church who can, I don't even pray for you, just. But yeah, if it goes on for a long time and you feel like you're failing to get out
so
of
right
the
now
cycle.
I feel like my AI can do all that. Like it can. DeepSeek right now actually shows you how it arrives to a solution.
Yeah.
So it can break down that maybe you're feeling like this, and I still like, okay, but
there's no human touch to it. That's the thing.
I actually prefer this type of thing to therapy.
Really?
Yeah, because then I'll read and understand, you know. It will be... There is no room for judgment. I am being as direct as possible, even where I would feel like the human connection just makes everything feel unreal. Because again, I've gone to a therapist before, and it was very hard. They tried. I was there for like 2 weeks. It was very hard for me to tell them the truth, that, you know, the sex we're having was not good in whatever ways they wanted me to bring it out. Yeah. I felt like even if I told them, it would just be bad for the other person. But then I can tell that to my large language model and see what's up. But
anyway, sometimes having a bad experience in anything kind of puts you off the thing. So the therapy was bad, therefore you've gone away from it. Yet it's just a trial and error. You could meet the next person and they're great. But it could also not be for you, and that's fine. Not everybody gets help through talk therapy. Some it's writing, some I guess now AI has taken over. Yeah. But it's just, so it's staying aware of it, and then staying aware of how long you go through the episode, so that you're not then stuck. Because if you stay in any scenario, any situation long enough, you get stuck. So if the AI is not helping, to my friends is not helping,
to stay away from the internet and stuff, I need to check into like rehab for just staying away from these gadgets. Because to me, my biggest issue is the internet.
People do. Rehab is not just for
the phone,
substance
the
abuse.
Computer,
Yeah. Rehab is not just for substance abuse. It's for lifestyle change. It's for behavioral problems. It's for a lot of things.
Yeah, maybe that's something I would consider for like change behavior. I feel like I want to go back to that age where I'm holding a small phone.
Yeah. So you can. I mean, there are rehabs in Uganda. You shot stuff with the director of one last week, and then there are others as well. So
I've actually been to safe spaces. I have done some work with them. My friends have been there. Safe places.
Yeah,
but I've still never felt a need that this is. So when I listen to the conversations, maybe I'm always just too full of myself. I always feel like I am smarter than the therapist or what they're saying. Their solution, I've thought about that, and it's very surface to the problem I am actually dealing with. Right?
That's ego. Which is, it's in everyone, but as
true, but
once you're there,
in most cases, I actually really observe and
no one's saying it's not true what you're feeling, but once you're in those places, how they help you change your behavior is by first accepting your behavior, basically. So then you just step away from that and like, okay, fine, I might know what you're saying, I've heard it before, but maybe if I listen a bit longer, you'll say something I've never heard before, kind of thing.
So I feel like my solution to all this, if say I got $1 million, my feelings will change drastically.
Money will resolve all the issues.
No. That is not it. So the small clinges of like the stress here, the school fees, studio, work, put me in that state where I feel things are not aligning. But then I get through it all the time. I'll still pay the bills, I'll still clear it all. But I'll still feel like that. I feel like, do I have to struggle this much? So I want to like maybe reach a point where I don't have money problems. Right? But money doesn't solve all the problems. But then I don't want to have money problems. I look at myself as so lazy because I have a money problem. And that is the issue. So it's not like, okay, I've actually gone back to see a psychiatrist last year. It was about smoking. Because then I felt like, maybe I'm smoking so much and then I'm so much in my head. But then I'm not, from your explanation, I've always thought I'm a functional addict. But then from your explanation, there's no functional addict. Because I can go away from the smoke for a week and come back, smoke if need be, and be normal. And I can do this all day without smoking and I'll be normal. But then at some point I feel like, why not smoke if I can? Why? Because I enjoy the high. I like my mind. Sometimes I like the short-term memory losses I get if maybe someone has pissed me off, and then the THC gives me that, just when the THC is getting into the body, that high is dope. Then I've actually reached to a point where now I will automatically stop smoking because I actually don't get that high anymore. You get? I don't know if you are drinking to a level where
I didn't get high.
You would not feel drunk. You would not taste the alcohol.
Yeah, it would take me a very long time. But then I didn't stop because of that. So that's the difference.
So me, I feel like I'll stop.
Yeah.
Like I am transitioning to that stuff because now I feel like it's a burden. Whenever I'm trying to smoke, I don't benefit that much. I don't enjoy it. I also don't get the high. Or when I do it, it lasts for a very small time. So it means that either I'm going to smoke so much or it's pointless, right? But I know and I acknowledge that my body will have its own demands. There's basically when someone's smoking, I'll smoke with them because it's like a craving, it's a feeling. It's cigarettes. I've grown up all my life hating people who smoke cigarettes, right? Until I started to actually smoke them in bars. Recreational. I'm like, okay. But even when I did smoke them, they were bullshit. But then the body could crave them just for the sake of it. It was like a feeling. There's no reason attached to it. It's not that I've been stressed that I need to smoke. No.
Yeah, because nicotine is addictive.
Yeah. Just that, the nicotine being in the body and stuff like that. So that is it. I have told you things I have not told anyone.
So see, talking is good.
But I don't feel like talking to you is a solution, right?
It's not about
I feel good that I've told you because I've listened to you, I've listened to your story, and it's a thing I do with my podcast. We level up so that someone doesn't feel like the aim is for both of us to feel good after this conversation. So this naturally I'll level up to you. I'll give you some experience of mine because you've shared yours. But talking to you does not my issues, I feel okay about this. I don't have a problem doing this. I'll publish it. I will not go and question it that hey, maybe I say too much. I don't. No. I'll be okay because again, I feel like I'm one of those very few people who are prone to judgment. I don't really give a fuck about what people think about me. Naturally, I've been like that for a very long time in my life. When you sit down with my father, he will tell you the same thing. Till he's never really cared about people's opinion. He's always so full of himself and stuff. So there's that. But yeah, so I've talked to you because that's the thing I had to do today. Talk to you.
Yeah, but it made you feel better. So it's not about solutions, and I think that's the misconception I'm trying to break for you, especially. It's not about solutions. It's about feeling better, like just reducing the bad feeling by a little bit, right? So every time you talk about it to somebody who you find yourself just talking to, let's say, it doesn't have to be a therapist, but just you open up and offload a little, that's a little less that you're carrying around. And that opens up space for something else to happen. So if you had to say, let's say, just like what you were saying about today, coming here and doing this episode, if you talk to somebody about some of this stuff before, it would have felt easier to come. You still came, and that's great, but I'm just saying it would have felt easier. So it reduces the burden that you're carrying. It's not that it will resolve your issues.
To the podcast, right?
No, I get it. I was just giving just trying to use it as an example. But it reduces the burden and allows space for something else. So if you're doing it continuously, your burden becomes less, and then just doing all these other things becomes easier. It's not that it resolves anything, and that's the thing. So talking or talk therapy is not about resolutions or solutions. Sometimes you reach those things and you reach them through having talked. It's not the other person telling you.
How long do you want to live for?
Oh, I've never thought about it.
No, you have a chance to think about it.
I know, that's a hard question on the spot. I don't know. I hope old enough. I hope long enough to see a grandchild. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
So at some point I feel like I want to stop at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah?
But everybody naturally stops at some point.
Yeah, but I feel like I should induce it. Okay, I don't want to say I want to kill myself because I'll be stupid. But
that's how I feel. It's not stupid. Valid. Horrible.
I feel like I can have a timeline, right? Like I want to do this, and when I'm done with this, that's it. I don't want to see the future. I don't want the promise of the Bible of the afterlife. No, none of that.
That's a hard one. Yeah, it's a hard one because, well, technically or definitely, none of us know when we're going to die. So predetermining when you're going to is basically passive suicide. It's saying that you are going to make it happen, right? And that shouldn't be a goal. You should live for as long as you're supposed to, basically.
So, what happens if I go into an reckless accident? And some shit happened. I lose my leg. I do this. That is not what I want to deal with. But if I can live to a certain time, say I want to live until 50 years. Accomplish everything. Now that's 20 years for me from now. In the next 20 years, if I accomplish everything, why shouldn't I be in position to stop there?
I guess perhaps that's not where you're supposed to stop.
But no one determines that.
Neither do you, though.
But if I can, then if I have the power to, why not?
I don't really know. I think the answer to that is because we've always been told that that's just what it is. But also, I don't know, like I feel... So I guess bringing it back to my own experience, if I had the power and... Well, I obviously did, but if what I had tried worked out...
See like how you actually were willing to go to rehab, but then get out and stop.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. So I'm so thankful that wasn't the plan for my life. Because obviously I was meant to be here now doing this. Not this specifically, but this kind of stuff. Raising awareness and helping people. So I know that I've already had an impact on some people just from one episode of what we've done with Laura. And I'm like, for me, it's just like, if I can even help one person, I'm so happy now. So I'm really happy. I'm really glad that that the plan that I had for myself wasn't the plan that my higher power had, that my God had for me. Because that wasn't the purpose of my life. And I'd actually not lived until, I feel like I started living last year. Literally, like I feel like I started living last year. I keep telling people the version of me that everyone has met since 2024 has never existed before. She's the best, absolute amazing person, most amazing person I've ever met. That's me, I'm talking about myself. But she's the best version of me, but also she has never existed before. And had I not been around for it, well, how would I have ever known that? I wouldn't have even known. I wasn't living, I was existing.
So me, I've experienced the best version of myself. The richer version of myself.
But you don't know that.
Kind version. I've
You've experienced versions of that. But what if they're even more elevated versions of that? What if you're supposed to be richer than you ever were?
That's being hopeful.
That's what I'm saying about hope. What's wrong with it?
But the alternative is, what if that doesn't happen?
Then it doesn't. That's okay too. Or at least you would have not tried, but you'd have then lived all the versions of you. I'm trying to tell you that perhaps the reason why, okay, I don't know, maybe the plan for your life stops at 50. Again, we don't know that. But if it doesn't, then there's a reason why, surely. Or at least now I believe that. I always used to say it, but I didn't believe it.
So I like science and physics for one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's some sort of proof to everything in science.
Yeah.
Which is not the thing with religion, belief, and hope. And so I'd rather mask to science and be like, this equals to this, and that's that. But the whole feeling of, by the way, if you don't kill anyone, don't lie anyone, don't have sex before marriage, if you do all these things, you might actually live a really bad life, but after you leave, you're going to be in heaven, some sort of beauty thing. You're going to have the best of the best of the best. Doesn't cut it for me.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about the afterlife. I'm trying to convince you to live the life that is current.
Right now I'm living, right? So if today night, right?
Yeah.
There's a big possibility that I'll probably hang out with a friend of you and I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, happiness is a fleeting feeling. I can get it, lose it, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something I want to be all the time. I don't want to be happy all the time because that's almost like a delusion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know when I get it, it's like smoking.
Yeah.
When I get it, it's happening, and that's that. I'm done with that. I'm moved on. I'll enjoy that. I'm present most of the time. I'm here right now. Mm-hmm. I'm having this conversation with you, and this is why I'm telling these things, because they're happening right now. I'm feeling like this right now. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, and that's enough for me. I don't want the hope of tomorrow. So all the money I don't have today, thinking about the fact that, okay, tomorrow maybe you're going to like crack a deal is bullshit to me. Somehow. I don't care about what's going to happen tomorrow. I want to care about today, what I'm going to eat now. And sometimes it's a good or bad thing because, it's very like me to, just be there, have money and leave the country because now I'm living then. And just go do my other things or have fun with some people, or maybe I live in the present moment. So it affects me a lot. I don't want to think of I don't want promises. I don't want the promise of the future. Maybe because our government has sold us that so much, so I hate it. The government keeps selling the promise that, if you vote me back into power, the roads are going to be better this time, the education is going to be better, standards are going to be high and whatnot. All you have to do is to vote me back in power. And then you vote the guy back into power and nothing changes. Then he comes back and says the same bullshit and tells you, vote me back into power. And you really see that there is community that believes in that. So I want to disconnect from such false promises. That's why I don't like hope. That's why I feel like religion also does the same thing. Yeah. And this stuff I'm just telling you. It's not like...
no, I get it. But I'm like, okay, well, I get what you're saying. I don't know, I'm just saying, like, you can have hope like outside of all of those factors. It can be your own created hope, I guess.
So let me tell you something, right? I don't think I can actually really take my life.
Okay.
I don't think I can do that. But then I feel like my life should end at some point. Does that make sense? But I never have like an attempt or what, or the only thing maybe I pray is I wish I don't wake up tomorrow, and if things have stressed me in a day, I'm like, I wish I just sleep and don't have to wake up to deal with the world anymore. And whenever I feel like that, I never get out of my house. I'll just keep in there. Be like, I really don't want to deal with the world. So, because again, I have to keep my phone on, various reasons. I'm a business owner here and there. People will have to get to you. I'm a father, so something could happen. Just for such situations, I would really, really disconnect from everything until I feel like I need to get back into it.
Yeah. So that's why I call it passive suicide. So passive is basically kind of almost exactly what you've described. It's where you think about basically dying, kind of hoping for it, but not.
Are you scared of death though?
Not by attempting. No, I'm not afraid of death. I'm really not, actually. That's the funniest thing. And I don't know if that's funny, or if that's because I have been suicide. I have a suicidal ideation, but I'm not afraid of death because I also know that's just the natural progression of life. Like, we're all going to die the same way we all came to live, right? That's what I believe. So I'm not afraid of death. Like I said, I can hope that I will live long enough to see grandchild or two, but I don't know if that's my future. That's what my life plan is. But I'm not afraid of it. But like, yeah, so why I keep saying passive suicide is because of that. It's not active, so you're not trying. It's not an attempt. You haven't actually attempted to die by suicide, but it's passive in that you are actively thinking about being gone, shall I say.
So it's not actively, right?
It's not active. Active is when you are planning it, like like you're in the process of trying to take your own life. That's active. And that one, for those that are listening, please reach out immediately to a health professional, or to a friend or family. But passive is equally not great because, of course, again, it's a cycle. So it's already in your mind. The thoughts are being planted. The thoughts are there.
Because they like to be realistic, like physics.
That's not realistic.
That is being realistic. Like, look, for 30 years, I had a plan, failed. So I'm not delusional, right? Mm-hmm. So my goal was to be a billionaire. And at 30 years, I'm not a millionaire. So it means that there are very little chances that I'm going to be a billionaire. Does that make sense? So, but anyone else will tell you.
Says who?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because
there's so many.
The fact that it has not happened in 30 years
doesn't mean it's never happening.
It means that its chances of happening are very slim.
It just means it hasn't happened yet. Or
it might not happen.
It might not, but it doesn't mean that they're slim, and it doesn't mean that it won't. Because there's so many stories that we know of, yeah? And I know that they're the big names, but there are even some people we just know. Friends, family, or acquaintances, or stories someone has told you about an actual living person, real life, maybe even in this country, who their life changes in one way or another. And yeah, money-wise, that's not always a guarantee that it's going to happen. But you can't predetermine that it's never going to happen because it hasn't happened according to your plan of at 30. And 30, honestly, like you say, like you're 80. It's so young.
What's the point of being rich at 80?
I'm not saying that's when
I want to be rich now so that you know.
Yeah, but
I am functioning now.
Yeah, but you will still be for a long time still.
No,
especially
like 60,
guys will be you function way longer than chicks even. So at least maybe I'd understand if it was the chick telling me like doomsday scenario of I've reached 30 and this hasn't happened. But 30 is young and anything can happen after 30. I actually feel, first of all, I feel like you have a better handle on life after 30 in one way or another. There's just so much confusion happening between 18 and 30. In your 20s, you're just a completely lost soul. Let's not even lie. And then after 30, it's like, okay, you've been there, done that, had fun, some ups, downs. And you're starting to cement sort of who you are, realistically, what you really want. Things like that are starting after 30. So actually, if it's a factual thing, this is the time when what you want would start to become a reality, in my opinion. I'm not saying it couldn't have happened before, but there is a bigger chance that you can make it happen now. You've also learned a lot of lessons up until now.
Yeah, and I am tired of learning those lessons.
So start learning from them.
True, that's what I've been doing, but okay.
You see, so I'm like, come on, anything can happen is my whole point, and you still have so much time to make that happen, to make it a reality. But also to sort of understand that up until now, really, I think it was about learning lessons. Or you can look at it that way. It was about learning lessons.
Yeah, so most of the times I've learned from my own experiences. It's a good thing. So even though I feel like all the times I've turned down my dad's advice, he's been right.
Yeah, and after 30 is another time when you stop rebelling against your parents as much and start seeing the wisdom in what they're saying. So that's another thing, like that's another lesson learned, or learning from a lesson. Because up until 30, you're just rebelling. These are old people. They've never been here before. They don't know. Times are different. What? You don't get my vision. You don't understand. We've all been there.
So then you became more hopeful after 30?
No, I became more hopeful after 34. But yeah, in my 30s. Again, mine is through recovery. I keep telling you, I met myself last year. So, yeah, but...
What happens in rehab? Tell me. What happens that you realize that you find purpose? What's your purpose right now?
So for me, my purpose it's always been in helping people, but I finally figured out how. So this is what I'm doing, creating awareness for addiction through podcasts and things like that. Is that just aligned with what I feel my purpose is? But what I came out of rehab and did was I started a Master of Science in Psychology, because I want to be a therapist, actually. And I want to be a therapist because I've seen how having one who has gone through this stuff helped me a lot.
Some sort of hero, and
I don't feel like a hero.
Yeah.
What I feel is that first of all, you need to have studied it to become a psychologist. So I can't just pick up and do it, right? You need some sort of certification. I decided to do it a degree way because then I can build on that and specialize. And I will, because I want to do it in the addiction and recovery space. But I realized that having a therapist who was a recovering addict helped me a lot in my recovery.
Because they could relate?
They could relate to so many things. That's one. But what rehab taught me was how it helped me find my purpose is in that I realized that I've always wanted to help people, and it was about damn time I did. It just gave me it helped me come into myself. I let go of so many false beliefs I had of myself through hard sessions where I cried for like 2 days straight sometimes. But it helped me release so much stuff that I had pent up, resentments for people, other people, for myself, and believe that I can. And that's why I keep telling you there is still time. I'd always thought I'd run out of time as well to do a lot of things, and I hated myself for it. And then I realized that that's a false concept of society, because who the hell determined when you run out of time for things? One.
Yeah, but I don't want to drive a Lamborghini at 60. I want to drive it at 32. That's the thing. Like, it would not make sense to
like, it's okay to want it, but it's also okay to realize that perhaps it won't be 32, but it might also be like 36, or it might be 40. But it doesn't have to be 60, and it doesn't have to be 32. It's giving yourself that grace of, listen, this is what I want, and this is my vision. I'm actively going to work towards my vision. Because yes, it's good to have a vision, work towards something. But setting unrealistic goals is also another quick downfall of, I think, a lot of people. So you literally set an expectation of yourself or a goal of yourself that you wouldn't for another person, one, but two, is so super unrealistic.
Yeah, but that's the thing hope brings about, you know.
Not really, because you can be hopeful that you're going to have a Lamborghini and drive it when you can still enjoy it without the unrealistic expectation that it should happen in a year.
So the thing hope does, right, and why I find it very misleading is it prepares people mostly for the best. No. It makes people expect the best, but it doesn't really prepare them for the worst. Right?
Yeah.
So hope in its whole definition is expect the best. That is what it is to hope.
Yeah, but then
but they don't really prepare for the worst, even when it's happening.
So being grounded in reality and still having hope, I think maybe then that's what needs to coexist. So you can be hopeful and still be realistic. So that when something doesn't happen the way you expected it, it doesn't mean that you give up on either one, attaining that thing, or two, something good happening ever again just because it didn't happen. Because again, life is literally just that. It's a series of wins and losses, of ups and downs. You got to be okay with both. You can't expect one or the other, because also the living in complete and absolute determination that everything is going to go wrong is not living. Living expecting everything to go right always is also not living. Neither are realistic. Balance is what makes life actually worth living, and that is what living is. It's that balance of understanding that both must exist, and it's okay for them to exist.
All right. Okay, I feel like, unless you have something else to add on to this.
Nah, I've enjoyed this though. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was good for me as well.
Yeah, this was really fun.